the Oval Office. A room steeped in history where decisions that shape the world are made. A place where the weight of the world is often felt. But recently, it became the stage for a very public and very loud argument. An argument that echoed through the halls of power and beyond. The players, President Donald Trump, his Vice President J.D. Vance, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Three men with vastly different perspectives and stakes. The issue? The ongoing war in Ukraine and who was to blame for its escalation. A conflict that has drawn in nations and divided opinions worldwide. Accounts differ on who started yelling first. Some say it was Trump, others point to Zelensky, but it's clear that things got heated quickly. Voices were raised, tempers flared, and the room crackled with tension. Trump, never one to shy away from hyperbole, accused Zelensky of gambling with World War III. His words were sharp, his tone accusatory. He argued that Ukraine was only holding on because of American support, a support that could vanish at any moment, a stark reminder of the precariousness of international alliances. Vance, ever the loyal foot soldier, chimed in with his own brand of passive-aggressive criticism. His words were measured, but the intent was clear. He chastised Zelensky for being disrespectful to Trump, a rebuke that carried the weight of their shared political history. It was a classic Vance move, mild-mannered on the surface, with a thinly veiled undercurrent of menace, a tactic he had perfected over years in politics. Zelensky, to his credit, didn't back down. He stood his ground, his voice unwavering. He's a man who knows a thing or two about standing up to bullies. His resolve was evident, his determination clear. He pointedly reminded Trump of his hatred for Putin, suggesting that this personal animosity was hindering any chance of a negotiated peace. A bold statement that left the room in stunned silence. Trump's claim that Zelensky was risking World War III is a familiar one. This isn't the first time he's made such alarming statements, and it likely won't be the last. He's used it before, both during and after his presidency. These kinds of statements are part of his playbook, designed to grab headlines and stir up fear. It's a favorite tactic of his: inflate the stakes to ludicrous levels, hoping that the sheer terror of the potential consequences will cow his opponents into submission. By painting a picture of impending doom, he aims to manipulate public opinion and pressure political adversaries. The problem is, like many of Trump's pronouncements, it's complete and utter nonsense. His assertions lack any substantial evidence and are often debunked by experts and fact-checkers. The war in Ukraine is a tragedy, a horrific humanitarian crisis. Thousands have lost their lives, and millions have been displaced, creating a dire situation that demands global attention and action. But it is not, by any stretch of the imagination, on the verge of spiraling into a global nuclear conflict. The international community is working tirelessly to prevent such an escalation. Trump's rhetoric is not only dangerous, it's also deeply cynical. By invoking the specter of nuclear war, he is playing on people's deepest fears for his own gain. He's using the very real threat of nuclear war as a political cudgel, a way to score points against his enemies and deflect blame from his own dubious actions. This kind of fear-mongering is irresponsible and undermines efforts to address genuine threats. It's a reminder that even out of office, Trump remains a clear and present danger to global stability. His words have power, and they can have real-world consequences, making it all the more important to critically evaluate his claims and motivations. Zelensky's response to Trump and Vance accusations was both pointed and poignant. He argued that diplomacy with Russia had been tried before, and it had failed spectacularly. He cited the 2014 annexation of Crimea as a prime example. The international community, including the United States, condemned the move but did little to stop it. He then referenced the even more blatant violation of international law, the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. This, Zelensky argued, was proof positive that Putin could not be trusted, and that any attempt at appeasement would only embolden him further. It was a sobering reminder of the tragic reality of the situation. Ukraine has been let down by the international community before. Promises were made only to be broken when it became politically expedient. Zelensky, understandably, is wary of repeating past mistakes. The Oval Office blow-up had immediate consequences, sending shockwaves through the corridors of power. A planned signing ceremony for a crucial mineral rights deal between the U.S. and Ukraine was abruptly canceled, leaving many to wonder about the future of the agreement. So was a joint press conference, presumably because no one trusted Trump and Zelensky to be in the same room together without a repeat performance of their earlier shouting match. The media, who had gathered in anticipation, were left with nothing but speculation and unanswered questions. Zelensky departed the White House without comment, his face a mask of grim determination. His silence spoke louder than words, reflecting the deep disappointment and frustration felt by the Ukrainian delegation. It was a far cry from the usual pomp and circumstance of a state visit. The red carpet remained unrolled, and the formalities that typically accompany such high-level meetings were conspicuously absent. The image of Zelensky walking away, alone, spoke volumes about the state of U.S. Ukraine relations. It was a stark visual representation of the isolation and uncertainty now facing Ukraine. The cancellation of the mineral rights deal was particularly significant. This deal was not just about economic benefits. It was a strategic move to strengthen Ukraine's position against Russian influence. It was supposed to be a sign of U.S. commitment to Ukraine, a way to boost their economy and help them resist Russian aggression. The deal represented hope and a promise of support in their ongoing struggle. Its demise, thanks to Trump's temper tantrum, sent a very different message that U.S. support was conditional and fleeting, subject to the whims of a volatile former president. The fallout from this incident would be felt for months, if not years to come, casting a long shadow over future diplomatic efforts. Section 5. Applause and outrage. As with most things Trump does, the Oval Office incident elicited a predictable mix of reactions. His most ardent supporters, those who still cling to the delusion that he is a brilliant strategist and master negotiator, cheered him on. Senator Lindsey Graham, a man who seems to have misplaced his spine somewhere along the way, expressed pride in Trump's performance. Senator Bill Hagerty, another reliable Trump sycophant, praised his America First approach, as if starting a shouting match with a wartime leader was somehow putting America's interests first. Meanwhile, the rest of the world looked on in a mixture of horror and disbelief. The idea that a former U.S. president could behave in such a reckless and undiplomatic manner, especially in the midst of a war that threatened global stability, was simply unfathomable to many. Section 6. Schadenfreude in Moscow. If there was one group of people who took genuine pleasure in the Oval Office debacle, it was the Kremlin and its allies. Dmitry Medvedev, a close confidant of Putin, took to social media to celebrate the showdown. Russian lawmaker Andrei Klishas called it a brilliant result, and even went so far as to claim that Zelensky had been thrown out of the White House for bad behavior. It was a classic piece of Russian propaganda, twisting the narrative to portray the United States as weak and divided, and Zelensky as an out-of-control madman. The fact that they could use Trump's own words and actions to bolster their narrative made it all the more effective. Section 7. A fractured alliance. The Oval Office incident exposed the deep fissures that have emerged in the U.S.-Ukraine relationship since Trump's return to the political scene. While the Biden administration has remained steadfast in its support for Ukraine, providing military and financial aid, Trump and his allies have been openly critical of U.S. involvement. This division has had a corrosive effect on the alliance. Ukraine, caught in the middle of a proxy war between the U.S. and Russia, is left wondering who they can truly rely on. The uncertainty and unpredictability emanating from Washington is a gift to Putin, allowing him to exploit divisions and weaken Western resolve. Section 8. The art of the deal, or lack thereof. Trump's boasts about his ability to negotiate peace in Ukraine have been met with skepticism, to put it mildly. He's claimed to be in serious discussions with Putin, dangling the prospect of economic deals between the U.S. and Russia in exchange for an end to the conflict. However, these claims have been contradicted by both Putin and French President Emmanuel Macron. Putin has denied that any detailed talks have taken place, while Macron publicly fact-checked Trump after he misrepresented an agreement they had made. Section 9. A bleak outlook. The Oval Office showdown was a stark reminder of the challenges facing Ukraine and its allies. With Trump back in the mix, spouting his usual brand of divisive rhetoric and undermining U.S. foreign policy at every turn, the prospects for peace seem more distant than ever. The incident has also raised serious questions about the future of U.S.-Ukraine relations. Can the alliance survive another Trump presidency, or will it crumble under the weight of his ego and his dangerous obsession with Putin? The answer to that question may well determine the fate of Ukraine and the future of Europe. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for instant notification anytime we post a news update.